So last week, the Trump administration added a third major American law firm to its blacklist. Let me explain why they're doing that, why Donald Trump is going after major law firms, and what it means to you. First, the Trump administration went after a law firm called Covington and Burling. This is one of the preeminent law firms in the country with an old, storied history of challenging government authority, among other things. And they went after Covington because Covington represented special counsel Jack Smith. So this was the cardinal sin of Covington and Burling. They represented Jack Smith. So what did they do? They sought to cancel government contracts that firm may have, or they sought to discourage government contractors from using lawyers at the firm. They sought to prohibit the firm from representing clients that might have classified work for the government. In essence, to deprive the firm of clients and resources to continue operating. But the Trump administration didn't stop with punishing that firm, much as it sent a chilling effect through the legal community. It then went after a second firm called Perkins Coie. Perkins Coie's cardinal sin was that it represented the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton, but probably more to the point, it took on a lot of these bogus election cases brought by the Trump campaign in 2020. It advocated for the American election, for a free and fair election, and against these arguments that were shot down by court after court after court brought by the Trump campaign. The judge in that case, in the Perkins Coie case, because Perkins sued over the Trump administration's blacklisting, talked about how this effort by the Trump administration to punish major American firms goes after the very foundation of our legal system and sent a chilling effect through all law firms. And that judge raised the significant concern it had to it bedrock American principle, and that is that our system works best when both sides of a case are vigorously represented by counsel. The most recent firm to incur the ire of the Trump administration is Paul Weiss. Now, this is the most attenuated justification by the Trump administration for targeting this firm. It has to do with, number one, on a pro bono basis. That means for free. The law firm represented people who were victimized on January 6th by those violent insurrectionists. They also sought to punish this major firm because it had a former lawyer who left the firm over a decade ago participate in the Manhattan DA's office investigation and prosecution of Donald Trump. So this was the very attenuated basis for that firm to become on the blacklist. Now, what is the problem with all of this? Well, as the judge in the Perkins Coie case made clear, this threatens a bedrock principle of American justice. That is, you should have the right to a lawyer no matter who you are. You should have the right to the best representation. If you think back to our early history, you had John Adams, prior to the establishment of the American Republic, taking on what was the most unpopular case then before the colonies, and it was to represent the Redcoats, the British, in a case called the Boston Massacre, when British troops fired upon colonists after a dispute. He took on that deeply unpopular case as a prominent lawyer because he believed in the foundational principle that everyone is entitled to representation. And that principle has been with us since the country's founding, indeed, before the country's founding, as you can see in one of my favorite films, To Kill a Mockingbird. In this scene, Atticus Finch is asked to take on a case that he knows will be deeply unpopular by the sheriff of their town, knowing that no one else is going to take this case. Here it is.
Atticus, you heard about Tom Robinson?
Yes, sir.
Grand jury will get around to charging him tomorrow. I was thinking about appointing you to take his case. Now, I realize you're very busy these days with your practice, and your children need a great deal of your time.
Yes, sir. I'll take the case.
I'll send a boy over for you tomorrow when his hearing comes up. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, Atticus.
Yes, sir.
And thank you.
Yes, sir.
So he takes on that case, as many American lawyers have taken on deeply unpopular cases, because it was vitally important that there be representation. This is what is at risk. And what's more, we have seen this pattern before in our country. during the McCarthy era, where there was a blacklisting of individuals to try to deprive them of their economic livelihood with the idea of chilling First Amendment rights. And these law firms, in addition to the work they do to make a living and to make money and to represent clients, also take on unpopular cases pro bono. That is, they do it for free as part of their civic duty. They take on cases that no one else will or no one else has the resources to. What the Trump administration hopes in blacklisting these firms is that not only would these firms not take on anything adverse to the administration's interests, but also that other firms will look at this and say, there but for the grace of God go our firm, therefore we won't take on any case that crosses the administration. That is the chilling effect that they hope to have, much as McCarthy hoped to have a chilling effect and did with his blacklisting of firms. But there are other precedents we should be concerned about also, and that is, we've seen this playbook in other countries. We've seen this playbook in Hungary, for example, where Viktor Orban, to essentially strip away some of the safeguards of what had been a vibrant democracy in Hungary, went after the justice system, and not only the lawyers in Hungary, but went after the judges themselves. And you see in Donald Trump also nothing but disdain for judges who would deign to disagree. He has a habit in his first administration of calling a judge that disagrees with him somehow illegitimate. And here we've heard when the president was asked very recently about whether he's going to observe court orders, for example, the court orders that he reinstate people he illegally fired in the federal government. You heard the president say, essentially, these judges were not elected. I got 80 million votes. Therefore, I can do what I want. That would bring us into a full-blown constitutional crisis. But this is laying the foundation for the diminution of our legal system, a discouragement and intimidation of lawyers from representing unpopular clients, or in this case, clients whose interests may be adverse to the administration. So bedrock principle here, what it means for you is if your case is unpopular, if you need to take on the power of the federal government, you may have trouble finding a law firm to take your case. You may have trouble finding any lawyer to take your case if they feel that the administration will punish them for doing so, punish them for the exercise of their First Amendment rights and your First Amendment rights and your right to be represented by counsel. So big implications here. I happen to believe in the American justice system, which is under tremendous stress. To me, it is a vibrant fact of our democracy that we need to zealously guard. It is not some abstract ideal. But again, I think it was Atticus Finch who described it best.
Now, gentlemen, in this country, our courts are the great levelers. In our courts, all men are created equal. I'm no idealist to believe firmly in the integrity of our courts and of our jury system. That's no ideal to me. That is a living, working reality. Now, I am confident that you gentlemen will review, without passion, the evidence that you have heard, come to a decision, and restore this man to his family. In the name of God, do your duty.